The other day I got messy and I marbled colouring pages from a colouring book that I didn't really fancy. And I showed you then some that I'd already done previously and I'd outlined some of them. But today I'm going to work on one of those pages that for me, if I'd coloured it in without having marbled at first, would have just been far too fiddly and busy, and I don't think I would have enjoyed colouring it in, to be honest. But now that I've already marbled it, I'm going to add some extra to it by adding some pencils, maybe some pen. We'll see how it goes. So I'm using the Stedler Ergo Soft pencils, the set of 24, and I think I'm just going to use shades of blue maybe, because the marbling on the back of this is basically blues with a little bit of green, maybe a dab of yellow in there. I don't know whether you can see it on camera, but I think I'll basically use that and just see how it goes, see what happens. So I'm going to outline these little fiddly bits in a blue pencil, and today I'm actually going to use my T-Gull sharpener. Most of you know I'm a big fan of my M&R, but I find that with the Stegler Ergosoft, the way that the pencil barrel is, it's much easier to sharpen them with the T-Gull. So it's getting a little outing today, which is super good. So I'm going on here with a lighter blue just to create a gradient around this ring. And then I think, I'll do some of these inner squares in some colours and those teardrops, and we'll just see. I mean, the great thing is that you can add as much pencil or a marker as you want, and of course you don't have to add any at all. What I really love is that the background is just done. I don't even need to worry about a background because this marble effect is all over there, so I can choose to either enhance it and add more, or I can choose to just colour in on the pattern there, or I can just leave it as it is, because quite frankly I wasn't going to colour it anyway. So now I'm getting some art out of it. I got to get messy, got to have some fun and do some experiments, and yeah, so it's all good. It's all good, and there's a book that won't be thrown out or just not used, because I'm really enjoying using it for this particular type of project. Now, as always, I'm using my Prismacolor white pencil to blend, because it really is the best for me, other than my Caran d'Ache Luminance white pencil, but the Prismacolor's cheaper and I've got more of them. So I hope you are all doing really well today. We have been pretty busy. We went up to the Sunshine Coast the other day, and would you believe it? Both of our cars broke down on the same night. So David's he had tyre problems, and mine's got a mystery rattle. And of course, we had an appointment with Buddy's vet up on the Sunshine Coast, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours from us, and school holidays, so heaps of traffic. We couldn't get either car repaired within the 2 hours notice that we had, so we had to go and hire a car, and David had to go and pick it up at like 4:30 in the morning, which was really shocking. But there was hardly any cars with pet friendly that you could take a pet in, so we only had the choice of two. So we got one, and we certainly know which car we are not going to buy. We found it really uncomfortable, so I guess if you're shopping for cars, it's always a good idea to hire one out first. And I say hire, but we got it from like Uber car share or whatever. So it worked out pretty well. At least we had it. So I'm just going around in blue on these little teardroppy type patterns, and just giving them a bit of an outline, faded up at the top, and I'll do the rest on offline so that you won't be bored watching me do the same pattern over and over again. I do think this middle bit needs a bit more blue, and the Ergosofts are lovely pencils, and they're great for the price, but they don't really have as much pigment as some of the other pencils, so I am pushing quite firmly on here, much more firmly, can't do words today, much more firmly than I would normally do if it was just the Prismacolors. So anyway, we went up to the Sunshine Coast, and Buddy went to see his vet. He absolutely loves her. She's a Japanese lady, and he was so happy and smiling and wagging his tails. And she had this big jar full of treats, and he kept trying to get it off her. It was pretty funny. He was pretty determined. I don't know how she resisted from, giving him a talking to. We did try, but he was very determined to get those treats. I think he got more treats in one vet session than he does from us in a month. But anyway, he was pretty happy. So, and then we went and looked around and went to the beach and had lunch and went to the markets that were on. We'd forgotten about that. But the traffic was horrendous because we'd forgotten that it was school holidays, and everyone was up and enjoying days out on the beach. So, it worked out pretty well in the end, and we ended up getting home quite late at night, and Millie was demanding her dinner, wondering why management hadn't provided it to her. So I'm just going to do these sort of like tadpole type things. Just going to use like an aquamarine on there and some blues, and sort of keep within this shades of blues. Do some blue legs and then pop this lime on there because it'll go with the bit of yellow and green that's in the background of the marbling, and just push it out and give it a bit of a highlight. But the great thing about this marbling is that you can just use it for anything. I actually had a pile of the mix left over like the first time I did it. So I was marbling up so much copy paper, it was unbelievable. And then I tried drawing over it, and that worked out really well. By the way, the pencils on here, they go on here as easy as, just like with any other colouring book. I'm not having any difficulty at all. And these are budget pencils, and that's why I use them. But I also used other brands as well. I tried some Colleens and I tried some Crayolas, and all of them worked just as they normally do on colouring pages. So the marbling doesn't make any difference to the experience of using your pencils. In fact, I actually think it might improve it, like a gesso layer. It doesn't seem to make any difference, put it that way. It's still easy as, and the best thing, I can choose how much pencil I put on this, or how much marker, or how much pen I can add on to it over and over again. Now, what I do want to try, because I love having a little experiment, is to see if I can put more watercolor, like painted on, over something that's already marbled. So I might give that a go and see what happens, because I am curious, like, if it would actually buckle the paper, peel the paper, disintegrate the paper, or if it would affect the marbling that was already on there. But I am curious. I know I can put markers on it. I know I can put pen on it. I know I can put pencil on it. But I'd love to know if I can redo it again and put actual watercolor on it again. So that would be interesting, because for this, the marbling liquids or pigments that I used were watercolor paints. They were just cheap ones from the discount store. I'm not going to use my fancy ones on little experiments, but I'm really curious now to see what would happen if I watercolored it. And I'd also like to know, what would happen in different sort of circumstances when you try different sort of mediums first. Like, I noticed on one of the pages, I'd used marker on the reverse of the page, and some of the marker dissolved and came out on the marbled page because it was showing up orange, and I hadn't used orange in my marbling colours. And so I'm wondering if, like, you could put markers on there and then they would sort of make patterns when you marble it. these are the things that amuse me. I love doing experiments. I love seeing what can happen. And I love looking at the failures as well, which I know might sound weird, but for me, I like just experimenting and seeing what you can do. So I'll be interested to see how those experiments work. And I'm just going to outline all of these little centerpieces here in my Faber-Castell blue pick pen. And I don't really have that many colours, so I've got a light blue and this sort of medium blue, so I guess I'll use most of the medium blue, and I might use it in some other areas, but it takes me a long time to outline things because I'm as blind as a bat, really, and so I'll probably do the rest offline. And I've got my silver glitter Uniball pen there, which I absolutely love. It's so juicy and it's just so easy to use, and it doesn't seem to run out like gel pens and whatnot tend to do with me. So I'll probably be dabbing that in somewhere, maybe in these little circles or things like that. So I can, just add a little bit more enhancement to it. But I really just wanted to see overall what you could do and what sort of pencils work. And having tried it on spare bits of paper that I had, I knew that already that I could use all of these things, but I wanted to prove it to you that you could as well, because some of you may have pages from books or junk journals or whatnot, and you're curious about things that you could do with it, and maybe making backgrounds or maybe making cards or whatever you fancy, and this is just a cute and creative technique. So this is my finished picture. It's quite dark because the light actually broke on my photography setup. So I took this picture outside. So it doesn't quite look like this in real life. It's a lot lighter, but it was the best picture that I could get in the sun. But I've outlined it in silver and blue and just put some dots in there. But that's it for my little marbled page. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, stay safe and happy colouring.